Hey guys, welcome to Wednesday. We're hanging out here in Studio 22. I'm going to tell you guys a little story here. Back when I was a little kid, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. I loved going to my grandparents on the weekend because several reasons. One, they spent money on me. They spoiled me a little bit, but I got to do a couple of things on the weekend with them that otherwise I wouldn't have gotten to do. My grandmother, she's a Sunday school teacher, so that meant I get to go to Sunday school with her. So we went to church early, and it was good. I enjoyed that. But for her to prepare for Sunday school, teaching the lesson, every Saturday we went to the public library. She let me check out, about half a dozen books, and I kept them that week, read them that week. It started my love affair with books, and I'm still on that same course, as those of you who followed me for a long time, And it was all because of my grandmother, her influence, being able to go to the library. It never would have crossed my mind that I might walk in there and encounter a drag queen story hour, or I might have to, my grandmother didn't have to keep a watch on me in case I was going to run into some pornographic material or something like that in the library. But those days are gone. Times have changed, and our kids are being bombarded. They're being attacked, and this it's just an evil thing that is among us. And now it is very, very evident. It's not even in hiding anymore. And one of the guys is leading a valiant fight, and I believe winning, because he's doing it in a very strong way, but he's doing it in the right way, is Kirk Cameron. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Great to be here with you.
Welcome, man. Dude,
I want a pair of boots and a hat like you.
You can have them.
I got boots. I just need a hat.
The thing is,
and a buckle.
I love wearing the hat because everybody will tell you it's like I like for people to just think they're talking to a bumpkin, and they are, but they're just go ahead and underestimate you and judge
That's
you right
right.
up front. And then I get people when I take the hat off, they get mad at me. They're like, cover that back up. But I'm so lazy this week. I'm not even wearing socks. Catch the ire of everybody. Dude, I know you're under attack with everything that's been going on, and you'd have to be living under a rock, folks, if you don't know everything that Kirk's been going through in the last couple of years. They wouldn't let you go read your own books about faith and redemption, and children's books that talk about growing up and the values and godliness and these kind of things. Great principles. And they fought you. They wouldn't let you come read to those books in the libraries. What's up with that?
Well, they're not great principles if you're a communist, right? Those are antithetical to your worldview, and you want to put that down along with all the rest of Western civilization, which is ultimately rooted in the Bible. You got to get rid of all that stuff if you want to bring in a great reset, if you want to bring in socialism or anything like that. Can we go there? Can I say things 100%. Like this on your show?
You can say anything you
got
want
a hat on, so I know I can say things.
You're under my umbrella, Kirk. I've got it covered for both of us.
Here's a quick 30,000-foot view of what happened. Last Christmas, I wrote a children's book called As You Grow, and it was teaching children how to grow the fruit of the Spirit. That's a biblical term for the things like love, joy, peace, kindness, gentleness.
Horrible concepts.
All right. And I wanted to read it in a public library setting to kids, like so many other people have been doing, these story hours that you've been hearing.
Yeah.
And I was denied by over 50 woke libraries that had previously held drag queen story hours and promoted them for children. And when we asked them, why don't you let me come in? They said, our values are not aligned. Our community doesn't want your kind of a message. We're a inclusive society here, and so we don't appreciate your messaging. And now, of course, you see the irony there, the contradiction there. I said, why aren't you including me then? What's the deal? And I reminded them, this is America. You're engaged in viewpoint discrimination, saying yes to this group with even sexualized content that's inappropriate for kids, and no to me to talk about love. And even worse, if you're discriminating based on Christianity, that's a violation of the Constitution of America, and you're going to be held responsible in court. So they reversed course. I went to the library, Indianapolis, downtown, 3,000 parents and grandparents show up for a book reading of a little book like this, teaching kids about self-control and love and peace. And that showed me that there is a loving army out there that is passionate about their children, about the future, about the family, about this country, about God. And they want to get behind the restoration of good things in this country, and to get back to the principles that lead to blessing and protection. So that's what I've been doing for a year, going to public libraries. We had a second book come out called Pride Comes Before the Fall. That was about humility. We released it during Pride Month. Debuted it in Seattle, Washington Public Library. That was a hoot. And then this newest one is called The Fox, the Fair, and the Invention Scare About Loving Your Enemies. So with everything going on in the Middle East, everything going on here, I figured this would be a good time to give our kids a better strategy than cut their throat before they cut yours.
Yeah, I mean, that's a timely message. And that's, you're right, because you go out and, it's like we recognize that the next generation is important. Like everything that's valuable to us, whether it's the church, whether it's freedom, whatever, it's always one generation away from extinction. If we don't put those values in the next generation, they're gone. Well, these folks out there, the socialists, the Marxists, the whatever, they recognize that. They've been playing the long game, and they're beating us at it.
That's right.
We claim to value it, but we're not doing anything about it. You've now started something called SkyTree Book Fairs. I used to love going to the book fair. Man, when they brought that thing in there, I counted.
So fun, right?
It was colorful books all over the bookshelves, and it was like, what can I budget myself? But when you go to the book fairs at the school now, it's kind of got a different look, right? It's not the race car, it's not the train, it's not the horse on the cover. What do they got now?
Well, now it's a little different. Welcome to St. Hell, my trans teen misadventure that contains true pornography and sexually obscene material for minors.
Wow.
You got stars in their eyes. You got one called Rick, which is all about changing your genders. Many of these books now from Scholastic Books, which, by the way, they're the world's largest producer and distributor of children's books.
Yeah, we've all read Scholastic books our entire lives.
We love them. But now they're laced with gender-confusing, obscene, sexually explicit material inside of books that have covers that appear to be benign. And, we've all seen the videos of the mom at the school board meeting railing on the school board, but we said, where is this material coming from in the first place? And we discovered that there is a wolf in grandma's clothing who wants to eat the kids alive, and it's Scholastic Books.
Yeah.
They've been around for over 100 years, billion-dollar company, and they are the monopolizer of all of these materials. So what we are wanting people to do is don't just take my word for it, see it with your own eyes. If you go to our website, you can download a PDF that has book titles, pages, and copies of stuff like this. Chad, we're talking about clothes off, full naked, girl pointing at her private parts, calling it her imaginary willy, with an instruction manual on how to hide from your parents the way to inject yourself with enough hormones to turn your female sex part into a 2-inch bat and balls.
Wow.
And this is being marketed to minors.
Minors, like children.
And encouraging kids to explore drag at 4 and 5 years old. And it's so explicit that even Facebook cancels the ads for these books due to violation of sexually explicit codes. And those are codes for adults, not to mention this is all for minors. So if you download this PDF, you can show your friends, see it for yourself, show your principal, go to your school, show your librarian, your school board, let them know what's in the books. And then you can replace these harmful Scholastic book fairs with helpful, wholesome book fairs. Go to SkyTreeBookFairs.org.
Yeah, and you can bring them in.
And you can replace them. We've already got the first one happening in Virginia next month, and we have over 700 public schools and private schools who are actively in the process of swapping out Scholastic book fairs for SkyTree book fairs.
Yeah.
And you can change what's going on, because your kid gets one book in their mind, and you read the reviews, and they say, this is the book that made me go to the doctor and cut off my body parts.
Yeah.
And You need every book in your kid's library at their little school in elementary school to be reinforcing the values that you believe in.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, and here in Texas, people say, well, I've looked in our school library. We don't have those things. I said, or certain titles that I've recommended. I said, y'all understand, you can go online. There is a Texas educational online library with recommended reading in there as well. I mean, it gets deep, dude. I mean, with the stuff that they're hiding from us, not just what's in plain sight.
Yes, and the a lot of the really bad stuff you can't tell by looking at the title,
right?
Because it doesn't say it, and that's the point, right? If you're a drug dealer and you want to get drugs to kids, you might lace some Halloween candy with something that they can't see.
Yeah.
Well, here you have Scholastic lacing books that look benign for children with material that is not just asking them to make a choice about who they want to be, but it's actually leading them down a path that will destroy them and their families. And when I read the biographies and the personal memoirs of the authors of these books, you find out these are broken people from broken family situations.
Yeah, true.
And now they're just recounting their story and inviting kids to come in and recreate those stories and have a sense of community and go down the same broken path of isolation, depression, and lostness that they're in.
Man, thank you, first of all, for doing what you're doing. I mean, you could be using your platform for so many different things. So many do, and you didn't have to do this. But thank God you've got that conviction and the leading to do what you're doing. And I can tell you this, folks, from firsthand experience, the books that they're putting out, whether it's with Brave Books or whatever, way better quality books and better stories than that. And I know people are going to say, well, so does that mean we're going to have just this Christian book fair that's going to come in here?
No, that's not what it is. SkyTree Book Fairs aggregates books from the best authors and publishers around the country. They're like I said, we've got 700 of them in the works, and the majority will be in the fall, and there will be 500 titles that you can choose from that have all been vetted for content to make sure there's no critical race theory, this sexually obscene stuff, all the gender confusing stuff, all of that's out, and these are about good, wholesome values that made America the freest, strongest, greatest place in the world and put the focus on God and the family.
Well, we're in trouble, man. I mean, if we don't do something about it.
Yeah.
Because our kids are being brainwashed.
Yeah.
Sexualized even. I mean, it's insane what they're being exposed to.
Yeah. And now we need parents to wake up and remember that the task of nourishing and protecting children was given to us. So if this is now a dangerous place for our children, I'm sorry, but that's on us.
Yeah.
And we need to say, wait a minute, let's take back our responsibility and let's not just complain about a bad culture. We're putting them there.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to vote the right people in and then get involved on a local level. And so that's what I want to do. I don't want to just hear about people peddling fear and rehearsing the problem. Let's get some solutions and then find out who's on board to go do something.
Yeah.
So I'm connecting with you, Brave Books, and these guys at SkyTree Book Fairs.
So SkyTreeBooksFairs.org and then KirkCameron.com is your site, which has a number of resources in there, like the homeschool revival.
Yep, we're doing all kinds of things.
Tons of things. Because everybody that watches this show or listens to this show, my thing is you got to get your kids out of public schools. I stand by that. They've
become public enemy number one because the whole point of public schools, begun by Horace Mann in the very beginning days, was essentially to strip biblical Christianity out of the family, and the way that you do it is by essentially getting the kids away from their parents for 7 hours a day and convince the parents that what their kids really need is professional teaching experts. And then that's where you bring in all the Marxism, you bring in all the socialism, and you separate them from the things that matter. And that's how we're here today. Scholastic is simply following in the footsteps of the Humanist Manifesto, and all of that can be traced back to the public school system.
Make sure you're following him on social media as well. On Twitter, he blasts Scholastic on his Twitter feed this week, so good job on that. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Keep on going. We're praying for you. Guys, we know the unthinkable is here. Some of these things that we're talking about, there's things we didn't see coming. And something's wrong out there in the world. The headlines are starting to prove us right. We got these so-called trusted institutions that are telling you not to worry, that everything's fine, but you know better than that. Self-reliance doesn't happen overnight, folks. You got to start somewhere, and I encourage you to start with my Patriot Supply. They are the country's largest preparedness company. It is... They're more than equipped to stock your shelves. Ditch those canned vegetables and the box pastas. Get their best-selling 3-month food kit. It'll provide delicious breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Last up to 25 years. And 2,000 calories every day. You're going to get everything you need with that. You need to get one of those kits for every member of your family. It's good stuff. Start to strengthen your food supply now. Get the 3-month food kit from My Patriot Supply. Go to my special website, preparewithchad.com, and get ready. If you order right now, they'll ship it up by 3 o'clock. Preparewithchad.com. Hang tight. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. One of my favorite human beings on the planet, and I think is the smartest person out there, just smartest. And the reason she's so smart is because not only the things she knows how to explain them in ways that I can understand them. I was on a live feed video this morning with a bunch of people watching, and I mentioned that she's like this economist that's really funny. And I was like, I don't know how those things go together. But anyway, Carol Roth.
I can't believe you just called me an economist. That is a complete insult. I can explain economics, but economists are actually idiots. They're idiots that are pretending to be smart. So can we take that? Can you walk that back?
Yeah, no, I can't do it. I wanted to think of the most absurd thing to call you, but still has a personality. And I was like, I didn't know how to describe it. But
just like a baroness?
Just not.
She's a queen. She's the queen. Baroness of money.
I'd love to say that I helped your book become a bestseller, but I didn't because it's already a bestseller. You Will Own Nothing. It's a fantastic book. Everybody needs to read that book and just dive into it and just absorb it. Just all the stuff and get it to the point where you can just explain it back to people. And Carol does a great job of breaking it down. I want to ask you a question. How much trouble are we in? Because the World Economic Forum, they said, by 2030, we will own nothing and be happy, right?
Right.
Doesn't sound happy to me.
It's funny. One of my favorite parts about this prediction is it says, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. It's not we'll own nothing.
Right.
Like, we're going to be pretty good. But you over there, well, it's not going to be so good for that. But you'll be happy about it. And that's the psyop, right? They want you to buy into it. They want you to be part of Gen Z or millennials and going, YOLO, we don't need to own anything. Our lives are going to be easy. Everybody else is going to take care of it for us. Because if you buy into it, then they don't have to force it down your throat. You've already subscribed. You've already met them halfway. While they're up there buying the houses, buying the land, buying everything. You'll own nothing, Chad.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine tell me a long time ago. He said, because I like my stuff. He said, if you were a tribe of Israel, you would be a stuffite. He said, because you have everything.
And you would be under attack, but that's a whole separate story.
Exactly. We'd be getting, but he said, you have so much stuff. Like if the new computer comes out, you go get that. As I've gotten older, I've tamed myself a little bit.
Sure you have.
Yeah. It's just, we just change it. Older the boys, the bigger the toys, that kind of thing. But I've worked hard to live in a first world country and enjoy what a first world country provides, right? I like my comforts, and it seems like we're losing a lot of that. I went to a gas pump this morning and couldn't get a single diesel pump in the lot to work for some reason. I'm like, forget the price on the board of how expensive they said it was going to be. They didn't even have it in there. It wasn't in the tank. I read a thing the other day that said 32% of your annual income is what it's going to take to own a house for most people in the upcoming days. People are buying groceries with credit cards that are now up to 33% on their interest. How in the world are we supposed to just take it? I mean, what do we do in regards to that? Because it's coming for us.
Right. I mean, this is the part that is frustrating to me. You get people who are marching about every cause on the planet, except for the ones that impact them on their day-to-day lives. You know, back in the 70s, there were protests against the Fed when there was high inflation. You had car dealers who had cars on the lots that they couldn't sell, and they would mail the keys into the Fed, or the home builders would send lumber out. Like, why are we not having these protests, peaceful protests, of course, at the Fed, at the Treasury, at Congress? Why are people not calling their representatives and saying, like, slow your roll on spending? Americans have had to tighten our belts. We've had to make substitutions and choices. You guys are acting like you have an unlimited credit card, because they basically do.
Right.
But that, unfortunately, that bill is coming to us. And that becomes the issue. And until we all start going, this is a problem, and telling them it's going to be a problem for them, everybody's distracted by stuff, but not the important stuff.
Have you seen the app that's the U.S. debt clock?
Of course I have.
I mean, it's just spinning through the millions of dollars we're spending a second.
I talked about this with Glenn. It used to be that it was like this very slow burn.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, it's been like 3 years and it's still at this number. And now you check it every day and it's gone up by hundreds of billions of dollars. Like, people can't even internalize it anymore. The numbers are so big that it's like meaningless. Like for the average person, if the U.S. debt is at 26 trillion or 33 trillion, like, they don't know how to make sense of that. They don't understand that debt to GDP is now at 120+%, where it should be at 70 to 80% max debt to GDP. Our deficits are running about 8% of GDP. That's more than double the historical average.
Makes me feel great.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately, like, I'm a fun person, but I'm not bringing any sort of good news here, Chad.
Right.
This is the unfortunate part, because I'd like to just have fun and chill out with you, but none of this is really good news, and I'm just the messenger, so don't shoot me. This is not my fault. I'm just the reality bringer here.
Well, I was talking to you about a review I read on the book, and the book is fantastic. Get the book and read it. Is it on audiobook at this point?
You got to own it. You have to own the physical book.
You got to own the physical book.
And you know why? You know why I have to own the physical book? Is because someday somebody's going to go in there and change it. They're going to change it. There you go. They're going to say that I said something completely different.
What I encourage people to do, though, everybody that's listened to me for any length of time, what I tell people to do is get the audio book and the physical book and read them together.
Ah, yes.
Because it helps your brain process, and you can get through it faster, too. I think the comprehension helps
good.
a
Yeah,
little
you
bit.
can listen to it once, and then you can kind of go back and reference
Yeah.
it.
I like the physical book because I like to highlight. I like to dog ear. I like to, put the pages down and stuff like that so I can go back and reference it. You can't do that with an audio book, right? And you can't do it with a digital book either. You can't, the little scrolling thing you do on a tablet.
The only problem with the audio book is I don't read it. They never let me read my books. I don't know why.
What's up with that?
I think it would be great. So I always insist that a guy reads it. So
Really?
that some person who stumbles into it doesn't hear a female voice and go, that Carol Roth, she's boring. No, that's not me. That's
You're not
some
boring.
dude. I know. So that's we make sure that doesn't happen. So Chris Henry Coffey, who did my last book, did this one. So.
I would sit there and listen to your voice round the clock, Carol.
Thank you, Chad.
I would say, get
I
all sultry.
I appreciate that.
I'll tell you though, somebody in a review called you a fearmonger, and I'm like, it's not fear-mongering when you've got as many references as you've got, and the footnotes and the text and the proof and the quotes and we just talked about the debt clock and the interest and the percentages.
That dude was unhinged. I know exactly who it is. They clearly did not read the book.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what I was trying not to do. I was trying to take the conspiracy element out of all of these things. And most of the time I'm quoting somebody who said it like right out of their mouth and have more than 600 sources. When Joe Biden goes in front of the Business Roundtable on March 21st, 2022, and says there is going to be a new world order out there and we've got to lead it, that's not me fear-mongering. That's me telling you what is on the White House's website right now.
Yeah.
So blame him for doing the fear-mongering, not me.
My thing is, are we misunderstanding them? I mean,
misunderstanding?
Are we misunderstanding Klaus Schwab? I mean, it was like, was he kidding? Was it tongue in cheek? Was he being sarcastic when he said that, or do they mean it?
It would be really fun if they were being sarcastic. No, I mean, this is a guy who has had this idea of stakeholder capitalism since the early 1970s when he created the predecessor to the WEF, which was the European Management Forum that then became the WEF. His whole thing has always been about quote unquote stakeholders, which is different from shareholders. When you're a shareholder, you own something. You have put up your capital or your blood, sweat, and tears to have a stake in something.
Yeah.
They made up this word, stakeholders, so that anybody who hasn't taken a risk can all of a sudden say, well, now I'm a part of this. So he has been separating the concept of what it means to take risk and to be an owner from, how he wants to push ideas since the 70s. I mean, this guy is the most persistent of all time. We'll give him credit for that. But he ain't funny and he ain't sarcastic. And he's telling
not known
you
for his
that
comedy
it's going to be you owning nothing, not him and his cohorts. I mean, this guy takes 1 million francs salary, Swiss francs, which is about the equivalent of $1 a year. And then like when he has his Davos forum, relies on taxpayers to fund security. So, again, I'm going to tell you this. It's not going to work for me, but for all of you plebes out there, this is going to be the life that you're living.
So a good friend of mine, Larry Taunton, he went to Davos at the last one. He's going to go back again. He kind of goes in as an undercover. And he had to raise money to go because people don't realize you go to Davos, Switzerland, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And you don't just fly into it unless you have a private jet, which all of the elites do.
Right. All the people who are pushing ESG
Right.
and the fact that this is all very bad, we can't have fossil fuels except for their private jets.
Yeah.
Right.
And I asked him, I said, is it what you suspect it to be? He goes, oh my God. He said, it just reeks of the elitism of these people and he kind of has that look. He's a world traveler. He's an author. He's been all over. He's a very cultured guy. So he kind of blends
He can fit right in.
He blends right in. He's got the look.
He looks elite.
He's got the look.
Yeah.
And, but he was like, it's like $3,000 a night for hotel rooms and insane stuff.
These are people of the people, right? These are the people who know the struggles
Really in touch with
of
the common
Americans
man.
and people around the world who really should be telling us what we can and can't do. And that's the ridiculous piece of this whole thing. They have benefited from the system. They're the ones that know that you have to own assets that store value or appreciate in value in order to create wealth. They have all done it. They all continue to do it. What are they doing? Central banks are buying gold. The wealthy are buying more land. They're buying more homes. By the way, many of them on waterfronts, even though they're telling us the sea is going to rise. You have to just look at what they're doing and not listen to a word they're saying. Just emulate everything that they're doing, and you will be fine.
And as a homework assignment, I want you guys to start with Jeff Bezos, who moved out of Seattle, now is going to Miami, and look at how many other billionaire elitists have moved to Miami. That global warming thing or climate change, whatever the hell they're calling it these days, apparently they don't believe in all that stuff.
No, not so much.
So I got a couple of questions. We're going to have some fun. Hang tight. Okay. We're going to go to a quick break. Since the early days of Blaze, we've been fortunate to work with the folks over at Relief Factor. And I take Relief Factor. I love it. And I'm so proud to partner with those guys. They tried it out back when nobody had heard of Relief Factor. They tried it out in their hometown of Seattle and found out that it had a remarkable ability to reduce pain for different types of chronic ailments. The thing about it is inflammation is not only the chief cause of pain, but it's also a factor in many other diseases. And Relief Factor will help keep your inflammation markers in check. Hundreds of thousands of people, can't be wrong. They order Relief Factor every month. About 70% of that keep on reordering it every single month because it works. You can order the trial pack right now for $19.95. That's a 3-week trial pack. See if it'll work for you, and I bet it will. Go over to relieffactor.com to order. You can call them on the phone, 800-4-RELIEF. That's relieffactor.com. We'll be right back. I used to say, well, everybody has said it. It's a phrase people say, cash is king.
Yes. My dad was big on that. He had the big wad of cash.
Yeah.
He'd pull out $100 bill. He'd say, it's the last of the Mohicans. Of course it wasn't. There was always another one in the stash there. But he loved that. He was back in the day, like the Rat Pack kind of vibe. And everyone had the big wads of cash and the pinky rings. Miss that time.
Yeah. I keep a little bit of cash in an undisclosed location in a safe space that I know where it's at, locked up. And I went through it the other day. I said, I should probably count this and like see what's here. And I kind of felt like Silas Marner, running his finger through his gold, digging it up in the middle of the night. And anyway, I don't know. It's not king anymore, though.
I was going to say.
It's not king. You can count it all you want, but
here's the thing with your
nothing
cash.
behind it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, gold and silver physical coins, that's one thing. But actual cash is, that they're depreciating that, they're devaluing and debasing the money. So you got to go get that, go put that in a T-bill or in a money market, money market product that's yielding over 5%. Because if you're just letting that sit under your mattress, like that's just, it's worth less and less and less. You've got to, at a minimum, be in something like a money market product.
Is that the best thing you think to do? Like, let's say somebody's got $100,000 and they say, I need to stick this somewhere.
Right.
Like, what do you suggest?
Okay, so first of all, this is not financial advice, because legally, and it obviously it depends on your risk objectives and your portfolio, whatever. But if you have money that you think you might need and you need it liquid, absolutely money market products. And what I do is something called a ladder. So I'll put some in 1 or 2 month T-bills. I'll put some in 4 month T-bills. I'll put some in 6 month. And what that means is that they're constantly maturing. And then I can see, okay, where have the rates gone? And do I want to, up for a little bit of a longer time, or maybe I need that cash now. Yeah. But you cannot let your cash just sit around and be debased by the Fed and the government. You have to be earning at least 5+% on your money, which is quote unquote risk-free. And it's risk-free in the sense that, if the government defaults, we all have much bigger problems. And that's why you hedge your portfolio in other ways. But you cannot let cash just sit around. So anything that you have hiding in there, you go get yourself some T-bills or, a CD or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got little bottles of whiskey and 22 bullets. I mean, that's my barter for the apocalypse.
That's not a bad thing, too. I call it the prepper's portfolio, right? It's Campbell's soup, it's guns, it's gold.
Isn't it crazy that these are the conversations we're having right now? But, I mean, we're facing war with... but again, you mentioned it, ESG, modern monetary theory. I mean, cash, they love debt, they love deficits. We laughed at the Green New Deal, and now here they are. They're implementing this crap.
These MMT people, the modern monetary theory, which I call magic money tree, borrowed that from somebody else. But these are people who have, espoused ridiculous things that we have now seen in practice. We told them it wasn't going to work. We told them it was going to bring inflation. We now have the inflation. Like, where is the parade of sending them down the street and us all pointing and laughing, going, shame on you, shame on you. Yeah. We're not listening. I mean, these are people who are advisors to presidential candidates. These are people in, teaching economics in schools. This is a bad thing. And again, we don't have enough people who are pointing them and saying, you got this wrong, and, shame on you. And, what are you going to do? How are you going to be held accountable?
We were talking a little while ago, and of course, your prior book, we were talking about destroying small business, and that's
another uplifting topic.
At this stage in the game, I think we're destroying our own small business, because we talked about the lack of the workforce and their attitudes towards it, and the lackadaisical attitudes that are there, and just people are lazy. Is capitalism alive in this country? Is it still a thing? Does it exist?
So it all depends on your definitions, right?
Okay.
And so when I look at sort of a spectrum of capitalism to central planning, capitalism is just us freely exchanging, freely trading. We're making our own decisions. There's a lot of transparency, and there are some rules of the game that we all play by, the protection of property rights, and that's on one side. And then on the other side, and you can name it whatever ism you want, but I like central planning because it kind of encompasses everything, is a handful of people who are directing more and more capital, more and more choices. They're deciding, usually very opaquely, on behalf of everyone else. So I would argue that for quite some time, we've been much more over here than we have over here, and that has been the root of our problems. And if we got these people out of the way, if we shrunk down the size of the government, and instead of us giving them, trillions of dollars every year for them to decide where it went, if we were making these decisions and participating in that upside and that growth in a more productive way, because our capital is much more productive than what they're doing over there, we would be in a very different scenario. But, kind of like that directive of you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, people have bought into the you'll be happy. We just want someone else to tell us what to to do, and then we'll complain a little bit about it. They've tilted the playing field, so them and their cronies are doing well, and everybody else is suffering. And unfortunately, people, they see the ailment, but they don't know what's caused it. And then they go, oh, it's capitalism. Okay, well, the fact that the Fed destroyed monetary policy, destroyed risk for 15 years, we had 15 years of near zero or zero interest rates and $9 trillion that they printed out of nowhere and put on their balance sheet. That's not capitalism. There's nowhere in the rules of free trade where that existed.
Yeah.
And all that did was transfer trillions of dollars of wealth from Main Street to Wall Street. So the more we can get people to understand what these issues are, and I understand that it's complicated, but you need to figure out what they are so we can push back on the right places.
You brought up something right there, talking about shrinking the size of the government. I don't know if that's even realistic anymore at this point. I mean, I don't know. I know that hypothetically speaking, as we go into an election year of 2024, you got Biden, you got Trump. Both of them are big spenders.
Big spenders.
Both of them.
We got our Donnie dollars. We got our Biden bucks.
Yeah.
They just had a different name on them. Big spenders. And I know there are a lot of people who are big Trump fans. Obviously, he did really great from a foreign policy perspective, but from a business economics perspective, which is, he's the business guy. This was the guy we were counting on to make, a great financial situation. He spent a ton of money. He did a ton of stimulus. And I understand that he didn't have, Congress's full backing, but he didn't push back on them either. Yeah.
And that's my thing. People say, oh, well, I remember, 3 years ago, gas was $1.85 a gallon. I was like, yeah, but we were going $8.5 trillion further dollars in debt. So it's kind of, the roosters kind of came home.
There's no doubt. Let's be clear. There's no doubt that economically we were in a better place under Trump than we are today. But the macro issues that are going to debase our currency and to create these long-term issues, that was still a structural issue under his administration.
Yeah. You can hang for another minute.
I can hang for a minute.
I like you so much.
Well, thanks.
I don't get
back at you.
Like the last time I think I saw you was on Skype, and it's been a minute since you were in here. I don't know. I can't keep up with our relationship, Carol. It's weird. Glad your husband's in town. Damn it. Listen, I want to talk to you about something funny. And
Thank God.
So let's go ahead and go to a break. And while we go to the break, if you're watching the commercials, then just go to buy where books are bought. That was a hard phrase for me to say. I hate recommending Amazon and things like that, but
your small business bookseller in your local community, bookshop.org fulfills from small business booksellers.
You will
Some guy on the street who's hawking them.
You
buy
will
a book.
own nothing. Go buy that fear-mongering book by Carol Roth, but she's not going anywhere, not yet. Okay. Listen, guys, we know that Hollywood's been lacking for years when it comes to stories of redemption. Movies, TV shows trend towards the anti-hero, the flawed person who makes no effort to change and just becomes worse and worse as the story goes on. Well, they did a great story about my friend Phil Robertson, The Blind. It's the true story of the Robertson family, and let me tell you something. What a wild family, but their story's even wilder. So you can now purchase it on Blaze TV. So, hey, maybe you're one of those people like Phil, made a mess of their life, and maybe, somebody you love's in a dark place. Maybe all of those things are happening for you, and somebody that feels beyond redemption. You need to watch this movie. You really do. There's always hope. It's an incredible journey. It'll introduce you to the journey of Phil Robertson, which is an amazing story. And it's very vulnerable for a guy who's a very, very strong guy, and it's pretty amazing. So check it out. You can go Blaze Media and check it out. If you don't have a Blaze subscription, blazetv.com/Chad. You can actually use promo code Chad Plus right now. Get you $36 off the annual subscription. I think that's maybe the biggest deal we've ever done. Were they losing their minds upstairs? Listen, get it. Don't send your money to Apple or Amazon like we were talking about. Do it at Blaze TV. Okay, hang tight. We'll be right back. So I was telling you I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. I probably won't. You can handle it.
It's pretty hard to embarrass me.
You're pretty solid.
Yeah.
Talking about capitalism, we really made light of a funny story yesterday and spent way too much time talking about it. Sarah Gonzalez and I did on last night's show about this guy in New York who's made a business of selling unvaccinated sperm, and apparently it's gone off pretty successfully. But I mean, that's That's forward thinking. Of course, now I said a long time ago unvaccinated sperm was going to be the new Bitcoin. I said that like 2 years ago.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, capitalism always wins.
Yeah.
You do have to, ask yourself, okay, yes, I want the unvaccinated sperm, but do I also want the same sperm that everybody else is getting?
Right.
Because now we're going to have a really big extended family.
Right.
And
Very
that
homogenous.
gets very expensive at the holidays when you find out that you have like 95,
Yeah.
nieces and nephews.
Yeah, because this guy's got 3 kids of his own and 16 that he's... Fathered.
Yes.
Which, I mean, forget the morality of it.
Let's just throw the morality to the
Screw
side
the
for a second.
ethics at this point. But I thought, man, this is the world we're living in, though.
Yeah, well, and, it's going to probably be other things, right? It's going to be blood. It's going to be organs, hair, make some wig, get an unvaccinated wig, just chop
crazy.
it off, right?
And I guess we're all crazy for getting into this stuff, but like, Brandon, did you send me the story? Somebody sent me the story the other day of this. I don't know who she is, but she's an influencer who's got millions and millions and millions of YouTube followers. She's selling her bathwater in a jar.
Oh yeah, that's been going on for a long time. These e-girls that they like to call them, they're very good at the capitalism. They'll come up with all kinds of crazy stuff. And the issue is, who are the people on the other end buying it? Because you can offer anything you want for sale, but it doesn't mean that there's a market for it. So the question is, what are we teaching these young men who are like, hey, I went out, I worked hard, I made some few extra dollars. I think I'm going to spend that on some bathwater of the e-influencer. Yeah. This is when I say you need to own something. This is not what I'm talking about. This is not what I'm talking about, Chad. We want to own assets that are going to have the opportunity to appreciate and value. I don't know. I mean, I'm not like I can't prognosticate the market, but I'm guessing that that's probably not going to be retaining its value.
No, probably not. Like the people who paid me for the show in gold coins we were talking off air, like that show might still appreciate. You know, somebody paid me after the show.
5,000 year social contract on gold. Yes, that seems like a good thing to be investing in. Bathwater, not so much.
Can't see that. Yeah. Can't see that happening.
No.
No, it's a weird deal though, and I mean, and I'm sitting there going, listen, if we've got people out there who are going to pay 35% of their annual income to live in a house
and get no bathwater,
they can't exactly. Right. Why are you buying her bathwater? So, but I mean, I've always used my whatever popularity, I guess, to sell T-shirts and hats and apparel and things like that. I'm doing this wrong.
Yes. Clearly, you need to get a bathtub here on the set.
Or I need to
go in there and bottle it up.
Farts in a jar or something.
Well, the nice thing about that is that's much easier to produce, right?
I guess it's a weird diet.
Actually, that girl had to retire because she had a very severe medical emergency from her diet and like constantly pushing out farts. So that was short shelf life on that career.
I appreciate her authentic commitment to actually put the fart in the jar and to not just put air and just try to pass it off. So she was being at least authentic. So maybe since those are limited edition, maybe those will appreciate and value.
Carol, why are we the only sane people on the planet at this point?
I mean, what does it actually say about the world that we are the bastion of sanity and common sense? Like, if you had told people, like, hey, okay, just so you know, later on, Chad and Carol are going to be the ones that you guys need to look to when times are bad because they know what's going on. It doesn't say a lot about the world, Chad. I'm sorry to say.
If Carol's your muse and I am your mystic, we're screwed. We're screwed. No, you'd be okay with Carol, but don't pay attention to me. Nothing I say. Then there was the Gwyneth Paltrow candle she put out a couple of years ago, that smell like her, whatever.
Yeah, she's made like a whole industry out of like, let's be really prim and proper, but let's do something naughty, and I'm going to charge you $50 for this kind of letting you break out of that feeling.
I told it's weird. Like I told a friend of mine who was a wedding photographer years ago. She was charging like $2,000 to go shoot somebody's wedding. I said, "You're way too low," and she goes, "Well," I said, the other person down in Houston who's doing this is charging $12,000 a wedding. Their quality of their photographs is no different than yours. I said, but the perception is they're better because they charge more.
Right. And then you have to do fewer events in order to make the same amount of money. And when now you're competing with everybody's smartphone, because we can go and take our own pictures and try to make that happen.
Yeah.
I agree. If you can create that premium pricing, that kind of, you have to have it, or maybe there's a wait list, maybe you can't actually get, it's like, oh, I'm not sure if we can do your wedding because there's a really big wait list, and then they come off the wait list. You got to create that exclusivity.
Yeah, I like that. I told the makeup girls here, the girl that owns the makeup company that's here at the Blaze, I said, because they've got to do weddings. I was like,
hopefully you didn't tell them to charge the Blaze more.
No, but I told
don't
them
think they're
the
going to be very
weddings.
happy about that.
No, Glenn wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
And Glenn, trust me, it's a lot of makeup. It's not even Glenn anymore. It's just all makeup. It's like his hair's black, actually. Spray that in there. But I told them, I said, y'all don't charge enough for weddings and things like that. That's the way my brain thinks.
Well, listen, it depends. You have to provide that premium value and service.
That's true.
You have to have that clientele available to you. So depending on where you are geographically or how you provide that service. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you can sell stuff to rich people, that's always a good business model because they have a lot of disposable income. They're not as price sensitive. And if you make their lives easy and you do it well, they're going to pay for that convenience. And as we talked about right now, it's not a help wanted issue. It's that we didn't get the help that we wanted. And there are a lot of people who aren't delivering the goods, so to speak. So that's become sort of a competitive advantage differentiator.
I don't want to go to a bar. I don't want to go to a restaurant. I don't want to go anywhere that I have to wait on somebody that just doesn't care.
Right.
And that's true. People don't.
And this is a problem because, growing up, the one thing that my dad, after he pulled out his big wad of cash, told me was, you're putting your name on it. That means something, right?
That's
you
true.
need to take pride. It doesn't matter what you do. I mean, when I was 12, he signed me up to work in the day camp kitchen for the summer, and I made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But I made darn good peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Haven't cooked since, by the way. Yeah. But that was what I was doing, and I was proud that this was my contribution. And what everybody's doing, it's their art, it's your contribution. People just don't care. They don't care about their name, their value that they're bringing doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And that's we've lost that. We need to get people to take that personal pride. They seem to have pride in everything else. They want to share literally everything about their lives, but they don't want to take pride in their name and what they're doing.
That's true, and there's no pursuit of excellence. And guess what? If you continue with that type of mindset, you will actually be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you will own nothing. You'll own nothing.
And be a bastion of mediocrity, which is, by the way, it's my number one. What's your number one fear in life? Mediocrity.
Mediocrity.
Yeah.
It's an enemy.
Yeah.
Let go of whatever makes you stop. Do not pursue that enemy, which is mediocrity. That's for sure. How often are you on Glenn? You're on Glenn once a week?
Whenever Glenn invites me.
I
Some
hear
weeks
you a
it's
good
like we
bit, though,
talk
so-
about stuff and then it's come back tomorrow. Sometimes it's a couple weeks. So there's not like a specific time. It's just whenever, he feels like he needs to get something going on in the financial economic realm.
Well, I love it. I'm always listening, and I'm always listening for you. So when you're on there, so I really do appreciate you. We have fun together,
But we get to see each other on the social medias too. So that's
we
another
do. And we have fun. And you need to be following her on the socials. We've got it down there on the deal. But she's fun and funny, and she's always making fun of the fashion shows, which we didn't get into today. But
we'll do it next time.
Yeah. On what occasion would one wear this? It's a cowboy event. Okay. All right. Carol Roth, get her book. You will own nothing. It is a bestseller for a reason, and I promise you it will enrich your life, and you'll find a lot of value in it. Carol, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hang tight. We'll be right back. What an action-packed episode, boys. Everybody was in here. I feel like we filmed 4 shows today. Good Lord, man. We never have that many guests. And all we had was 2. So, yeah, that's the way it goes. But thanks to Kirk and Carol for coming in and hanging out, taking some time out of their busy schedule. 2 awesome people. And tomorrow, we got a comedian, Derek Richards, is going to be with us for Thursday, Getting Off the Rails. Then Friday, my good buddy Michael Loftus. You've probably seen him on a few shows like Gutfeld and his own That Show Tonight. Funny comedian. We've traveled around the country together. He's going to be with me for overtime, so don't miss that. We'll unpack the world's problems and fix them. But I am headed to Wichita, Kansas this weekend, so if you want to come hang out with me in Wichita, watch chad.com for all the fun stuff is. Get all the information you need. Tomball, Texas next Thursday night, a little one-off comedy night. Going to be fun. And then Saturday night in Marble Falls, Texas, and then Justin, Texas. That rounds out November pretty good. So watchchad.com, tons of stuff coming up, and we'll have fun with it. Don't forget, check out the Blaze. Go to blazetv.com/Chad. Use promo code Chad Plus. Save $36 on an annual subscription. Tomorrow's Thursday. You know what that means. Gonna get wild. We love you, and we'll see you then. God bless you. Bye.